So today I would like to pitch the English language translation of a book that I came across recently called Nuestra casa, arbol. It's by Lea Velez, who is originally from Madrid, but she now lives in Brighton. Nuestra casa, arbol, which translates to our treehouse, is a very gentle but powerful exploration of motherhood, grief, and alternative ways of living and learning. After the death of her English husband, Anna, who lives in Madrid with her 3 children, she finds life particularly challenging. Her children are very bright and gifted, and they are finding it difficult to fit in with the traditional strict school structure. So she makes the decision to bring them to England, to a picturesque village on the south coast, near Southampton. And when they move there, she moves to a bed and breakfast which she has inherited from her late husband. And she begins building a large tree house in a big oak tree at the bottom of their garden, which sort of looks out on the River Hamble. She decides to create a space of freedom and creativity for her children as they navigate their way through their sort of new school, and form bonds with a number of quirky inhabitants from the village. The novel invites sort of introspection and pause and reflection. It offers a very big-hearted, nuanced portrayal of childhood, independence and emotional intelligence, and it focuses on subtle but profound ways that intelligence and freedom intertwine. I think it's absolutely charming. It's very whimsical. And I think it will appeal to parents everywhere, and also educators. I gave it to my husband, who is a senior lecturer in education here at the Chichester University, and he is sort of floored by it as well and thinks that every single educator should read this. And it's very refreshing. The main character, Anna, she sort of creates this modern sort of Neverland for her children where they can be fully free to explore who they are without constraint. And it's, as I said, it's a very, very big-hearted, warm and funny book, intertwining between the past and the present, sort of as the 3 children. So we've got Richard, Michael and Maria, the 3 children, and we sort of see them in the present as they come back to visit their old family home, and they're looking back, reflecting when they were children, and was also interspersed with excerpts from the mother Anna's diary. So yes, I would like to give you a little sample of the translation I have been working on for this, and I really hope that a publisher will pick this up and take it forward for the full translation. Okay, so here is the beginning of the book. I'm sorry if I'm looking away. I'm going to read it from my laptop. I wish I had a nice big book in front of me to read it from, sort of Jackanory style, but that's not possible. So here we go. Joiner's House, Hamburger Rice, Friday, 29th of November. Dear Richard, I'm sending you these diaries. They're yours. They will guide you on your journey back to the land of childhood. I don't know if you remember one of the talks I gave you. I said, children, I want you to do 2 important things in life. The first is to take note of everything. The second is to lift your gaze and look up by building a treehouse. To take note, you need notebooks, pens, and consistency. To build a treehouse, the first thing you must do is sit down for days on end and look up at the tree. Then you'll need 2 more things: a very long ladder and some good sturdy materials. These materials should not be too heavy, because the first thing I encountered when I tried to haul long planks of wood up 3 meters into the air was something as obvious as it was unexpected: the force of gravity. Well, sweetheart, these are metaphors. You know I never speak literally. But remember, the metaphors are not just words. There are metaphors made of bricks, wood, screws, and love. The Empire State Building is a metaphor. The River Hamble is a metaphor. Physical metaphors for a moral reality. I said all this to Maria once when things went sideways with that boyfriend of hers. Poor thing. She cried so much. I said to her, "Maria, sweetheart, look up at the house in the oak tree. People might think that a woman wouldn't be able to hoist a plank of wood up 3 meters without a man holding on to the other end. You might even think that yourself. One moment of doubt and we are sunk. Many might probably say to you, you're going to hurt yourself or you'll fall. Don't pay them any mind. You can do it. You're strong. We're all strong, even if we don't know it. Almost everything we are, we just are, even if we don't know we are. So at first glance, such a project might appear virtually impossible for a widowed mother with 3 small children. But first glances are incapable of seeing what's inside our hearts. First glances are doubtful. I've never looked at myself with doubt. I had buried the love of my life. After that, there was nothing in the world I wasn't capable of doing. Looking back, I don't think the house at the top of an oak tree was built through determination or through patience. I didn't say to myself, I can do it. I thought, I'm going to do it, without worrying about whether I could, without a moment's doubt or hesitation. Just like migratory birds don't hesitate when they take flight and head back to the place where they were born, a place they don't even remember. To learn what's most important, you have to write childhood and then forget it. I love you so much, darling. Come back to join us house soon. Mama. Part 1. A Good Tree. The Tree by the River. The 3-year-old boy frowned up at his mother. Intrigued, he asked her, Mummy, is the sun made of fire? Yes, sweetheart, his mother said. And does it burn forever and ever? Yes. And does the fire in the fireplace need oxygen to live? Yes, my love. Okay, Mummy. So if fire needs oxygen to live and there's no oxygen in space, why does the sun burn eternally? The 3-year-old boy was my brother. The mother was my mother. Before that question, the future aerospace engineer had already asked hundreds of thousands of questions about Venus, the moon, oxidation, and how trams work. But this one was special. This question went down in the history of our family as the purest example of his passion for the stars. After thinking about the 3-year-old boy, I looked at the young man now in his 20s. The wind was mussing his hair. He was steering the boat. My sister and I were sailing with him through the waters of the Solent. Maria was silently casting off a rope, enjoying the sunshine. My mind continued to wander. The sea breeze made my eyes water, and my thoughts turned to Genesis. Now the earth was formless and empty, darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Genesis 13? What made me think of Genesis? The sea was calm, blue and summery, no mist or wind, no empty darkness. Honestly, all kinds of shadowy, mystical things pop into my mind in the most tranquil moments. Perhaps I was thinking about Genesis because, for me, the origin of the world can be traced back to childhood. And right now, my brother, sister and I were sailing on a sea of possibilities, heading towards the source of all things good, or not. Perhaps I was thinking about the Bible because we were extremely late to a funeral, and at English funerals there are Bibles, sermons, and solemn words. Or perhaps it's not that either. Perhaps I was thinking about my own death. The threat of the storm had forced us to spend the night on the Isle of Wight. There was no rush. Time only slips away when you're going against it. The cremation had already happened. The body had burned early in Eastleigh. Maria was tired. My brother the exact opposite. Michael, as always, seemed full of the river's flow, made of water that yields to the earth and moves without a shape of its own, carving a beautiful valley with its weight. Adversity seemed to make him joyful, and he made joke after joke at my expense about my eye patch. Hey there, Pegleg. We'll make the final jibe when we reach the yellow buoy. Okay, I said. Was Pegleg real or fictional? Blas de Lezo, sailor and scourge of the English. He lost his eye in an unfortunate cannon blast defending some fort or other in the Americas. Well, at least the cannon blast didn't take his head off. Maria, we need more monocular monikers, Michael said. We're running out of ways to poke fun at Richard. I offered only a faint protest. All their mocking of my eye patch was steering my thoughts away from darker matters. I've already been Hannibal, Philip of Macedonia and Marconi, I said. Can we just park the eye patch jokes for the day? Come on, sis, defend me. Oh, Michael, our poor little Cyclops is right. We laughed again. Maria perked up. The two of them loved winding me up, damn them, and my bandaged eye was the perfect target for their playful digs. Seeing them like this, young, strong, joking around, I thought, the living are the sum total of all those who have died, and our dearly departed urge us on with their past, just like the wind pushes those waves and these sails and those leaves, bringing it all into alignment. We spotted the mouth of the estuary and the last buoy. Michael plunged headfirst into a vague memory of Paradise Lost, as if returning to one of our childhood productions. There, monstrous Leviathan, hugest of living creatures in the deep, stretch like a promontory, sleeps or swims, and seems a moving land. I might have made up the monstrous bit. Prepare to jibe. He cranked the wheel round, turning us to port as we headed towards the river. Improving the poem, as always, I laughed, and I tightened the line with my sister's help. The thud of the boom, the pressure of the wind in the sail, they always stir something in me. I don't know what comes next. Does anyone else know? He asked. By anyone, I assume you're referring to me? Maria said. Well, you're the one who knows about these kinds of things. Is it Milton? My brother nodded. Hamble Point leeward, Warsash up ahead in the distance. The trees that lined the coast blossomed on my retina and in my chest, forming words like familiar, home, excitement. These verses spilled from my mouth. And at his gills draws in, and at his breath spouts out a sea. Blimey, how on earth did you remember that? Haven't got the foggiest. Bravo, Richard. I've never managed to memorise a single verse of Milton, Maria said. Isn't it a bore? I find it terribly dull. Well, no, of course, Milton isn't a bore. I shouldn't say things like that. But really, when you have the Persian poets, these brutal biblical Saxons can step aside. My sister grabbed hold of the mast pulley. Between the two of us, we folded the sail. There's Hamble, our whale, with its gaping jaws, my brother said. Strike the mast, guys. Aye, aye, Captain. That captain sounded a tad sarcastic to me. That's because it was. Michael started the engine. Prepare to leave the solvent's mischievous waters behind for the more modest river of memory, my brother said. That's not a quote from Milton, I added. No, that's a quote from me. Maria protested meekly. Stop picking on my estuary. My estuary is not the mouth of a monstrous Leviathan. Poor Hamble. The memento left Southampton waters behind as we began making our way up to Joiner's house. We're home, I thought, although I thought it without actually thinking it. Sometimes we can think things without them even passing through our mind. We're home. It's hard to think of a better phrase. It's one of those phrases that's pure emotion. It never gets tired or worn out. Just like the word wonder. Wonder. What pure verbal pleasure. These phrases and words emerge from the walls of the soul under spiralling gulls, those dolphins of the air, who scream as they circle over the port. Why are we bothered by the cries of gulls but not by the song of the nightingale? Because we understand what they're saying to us. The strait and my lungs become filled with the smell of mud that drifts towards us from the land. Even the trees seem happy to see us again, waving their branches, a tangle of green bunting. We are also welcomed by the English with a sign saying, Welcome to the River Hamble. Maximum speed, 6 knots. Radio Hamble, VFH, frequency, channel 68. CCTV in operation. A wide river bristling with motorboats, sailboats, both slow and fast. Children in little dinghies, canoeists and rowers. It could be a little daunting, but there's no need to worry. Sailing along the Hamble is not difficult. Courtesy requires sails to be lowered, engines to be eased to half throttle, and respect shown to smaller craft. Calm, becomes a still lake of time. The river is a peaceable, friendly animal. You can ride on its back, carried on the wind. It's not treacherous, it never bites. In truth, it is a broad expanse of salty sea. If it were a person, the Hamble would be a quiet kind of guy, docile, somewhat grey, very discreet, with a prodigious memory, but prone to long silences. If it were an old man, you would have to pester it with questions to recall its childhood, but it would never be short on answers. The Hamble smells of grass and salt, and because it's part of an estuary, it is at the mercy of the tides. Yet Southampton harbours a rare curiosity. It's the only place in Great Britain where there are double tides. This river in particular has a clay bed, and its most famous residents are sea crabs, which are caught and thrown back by the hundreds of children who flock to the harbour armed with buckets and fishing rods sold by Mr. Marsh at his ice cream stand. 5,000 years of connections with man lie beneath these gentle river banks, in the form of arrowheads, buoys that stake out shipwrecks, rib cages of blackened wood like the skeletons of sea monsters, whales carved from oak and devoured by time. The Solent has the highest concentration of yachts of anywhere in England. Viewed from the air, the boats are like white zips sewn into a long skein of black cloth. There are thousands of boats of all sizes. In spite of this abundance of maritime machinery, I still believe we are in a secret place. At least, that's how it feels to me. The Hamble Peninsula is only known to those of us who have lived here. It's a natural maze of marshland and water, forest and mud. All this greenery, sheltered from the world's waves, belongs to the county of Hampshire, stretching between the two major ports of Portsmouth and Southampton. The terrain is tricky to understand. The Hamble is not the only river to empty into the strait. 3 channels open into the arm of the sea that joins this stretch of coastline to the Isle of Wight. The other 2 rivers are the Itchen and the Test, also navigable. On one side of the Hamble is the place where my eccentric mother, my brother, sister and I ended up, the village of Hamble-le-Rice, which hasn't changed in 200,000 years. It has 4 red brick and flint houses, pointed dormer windows, cobbled streets. Of course, it's a typical picture postcard English village. Tucked just behind Hamble is the village of Netley, a place of some importance during the days of the old Victorian hospital. Its present-day charms include Victoria Park, the ruins of the old abbey, and a rather extravagant castle. I'm still fascinated by Netley Castle. It was renovated a few years back. They turned it into luxury flats. Although the well-to-do residents open their windows onto the estuary, the waters of this landscape are marked by the industrial area of the Test, with its atrocious power plant, its ghastly refinery, and the vast tankers that roll in from Dubai or similar places to offload oil. The visual paradox is magnetic. The toffs who live in the castle look out on the industrial smoke of their economic might, while the humble workers of the petrochemical refinery are treated to views of a fairy tale castle by the sea as they go about their thankless tasks. Another physical metaphor, as my mother would say, for moral reality. But let us leave Netley and return to Hamble-le-Rice. Our British home was called Joiner's House, and it was an old carpentry school that had been turned into a house and a B&B. It was a few metres from the Swans. It had a wooden jetty, a sloping garden, and an oak tree at the end, crowned by a tree house nestled in the canopy. What do you think of the garden? Do you remember it? Isn't it wonderful? Mum said the day we arrived. Michael was 6, Maria 4, and I was 5. My eyes were glued to the little rowboat. What do we think? I replied. I think it's going to be like living in an adventure book. Michael drew an imaginary sword and clambered onto a tree stump, proclaiming, "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." I unholstered my gun. "I'm Indiana Jones and your sword can't hurt me. Pow, pow!" "Stop mixing up films." "Michael, you have to die or else I'll get my whip out." At that moment, my little sister Maria launched herself at us. "Kaboom! I'm Wonder Woman, and I've just turned you into mincemeat with my super lightning zappers and stoppers. Come on, you have to fall down on the floor now." We did as our little sister commanded, and we died in epic style, writhing, gasping for breath, and foaming at the mouth. Maria began leaping about joyfully, like a rabbit, but without the long ears. "I killed them, Mummy! Look, look, I killed them!" Our mother looked at us contentedly while we wriggled around, convulsing, and said, "There's a rowing boat and 2 canoes, but you must never go out on the water without my permission or without a life jacket." "Is this house all ours, Princess Bride, all of it?" said Michael. "It is now. It's all ours now. Absolutely 100% ours. It belongs to us and any guests who come to visit us. Do you like the place?" "You're the best mother for as far as the eye can see," my brother shouted. We looked towards the river from a place that would now always be a memory. Maria squeezed her favourite stuffed toy, a polar bear that had at some point been white, and said, "I love it, Mummy. My polar bear says that the whole world will float by our garden." And indeed it did. And here we are now, all grown up, floating among ducks, gulls, and boats. We moored the memento. We had arrived at Joyner's house. The hollyhocks waved their arms, covered in delicate flowers. A white cat looked at us from the post on the jetty. Birds fluttered all around the treehouse, which stood majestically atop the huge oak tree in the garden. We disembarked at Joyner's, clomp, 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 our feet thudding along the wooden jetty. It was like walking into a painting. No one came out to greet us, even though Michael cried out, "Ahoy there! The Martins have arrived!" "Mr. Marsh already told us there wouldn't be anyone here. Stop yelling like that," Maria said. "Is there anyone who might be able to give us a sandwich?" Michael replied. "Oh, I don't know how you can be hungry on a day like today." "Death always gives people an appetite, Maria. You act like you've never encountered misfortune before." "Misfortune? There's no such thing as misfortune at Joyner's house." For the first time, I saw my mother in my sister's resigned smile. I took a deep breath, feeling the silt of the shoreline settle in my lungs. Could it be true that there's no such thing as misfortune here? I have to think so. They say that the places where you grew up seem smaller when you return as an adult. That's not the case with my English home, even though I lived in Spain for several years now. The proportions have remained the same because the trees and bushes have grown with us. It's a labyrinth of green, outdoor rooms, terraces, stairways, wardrobes to Narnia, a river of movement inside. Eventually, one of the housekeepers came out, followed by all the rest. Kisses, joy, greetings. No family in sight yet, only employees. They asked about my eye. I gave them the usual answers. There were more jokes, and I was Falconetti, the rapper Slick Rick, and even Columbo with his permanent squint. Maria remembered that Spanish poet, Bretón de los Herreros, who lost an eye in a duel defending his honour. His misfortune inspired the charming epigram, "The supreme power, by singular grace, bestowed upon me what I had need of, 2 eyes for tears, and but 1 for sight."